This is going to be a complete review of all the progress that this car has gone through. It's gone through many stages within the past 5 years since I got this in 2018, so this is going to be surprised at what this thing looks like at the very end, so please stay tuned and watch all the way to the end. But this is when I first picked up the car. It was in pretty rough shape, and as you guys can tell from all the pictures here, everything was pretty much garbage, from body panels to interior. Just everything on it needed completely redone. So here we are starting to get everything cleaned out of this car because it was definitely a rat's nest, but ended up being really good backbones for a good project, so we ended up completely redoing this car. It's not exactly a frame off, but got the interior all cleaned out, the rust out of the floors, and we'll be seeing some more here in a second. This is also a numbers matching car. Engine had very little, like it was hardly even done anything to it other than chrome valve covers and a chrome air cleaner, but other than that it was bone stock. I started getting body stripped down to bare metal, and we threw some E-coat over top of it to seal everything up. There was no rust luckily on the main body itself, so it was started getting some of the firewall cleaned up too, all down the bare metal, a new seam sealer, and off with a hot rod black. That's a matte finish, and they're looking up pretty good. Like most Camaros, any kind of F-body, the toe boards on these always go bad. Luckily these pieces are readily available in a larger section, so I was able to get 2 panels for this to replace each side, because each side needed it, but it wasn't the worst, so that was a good start. Here we are seam sealing everything up and getting everything all sealed up. Ended up not body working the inside of the car because it's just gonna get, I threw down some bed liner on the inside of the car to help seal everything up even more and kind of protect it from any water that could possibly get in there, so I ended up just doing this instead. The trunk also needed a very small patch, but nothing too bad to be out of hand for the framing, because I know this is the main support of the car itself. Luckily it was just about the size of probably a mouse control for a computer. The VIN tag ended up checking out too, and everything was all original for this car, so it all turned out pretty good. I had the seats pretty much customized for my liking to look like original seating, but it is with my touch of a Sahara grain leather, and we kept all the oyster colored interior out of the car that was originally in it and stayed with a black color, so this ended up looking a lot sharper than I would have expected, so I'm glad I went with this. The trunk jam had a little bit of rust in it too, but it wasn't a big deal. A little bit of cutting out and shaping on some fresh metal, and they were good to go. Here you can see the bed liner we sprayed into the car, and it ended up looking really nice. I'm glad I did this touch. It also helps keep sound bending down too a little bit. Here we started body working the body of the car, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Luckily it was all original paint that was on it originally, and there's very minimal body work that was needed. As you can see, there's only a couple small spots, no full panel covers. Here I started cutting in all the window jambs to be able to get the window glass put into the car. Now the interior is starting to come together. I got a brand new OER carpet that was cut to fit, and it fits stick shift models and automatics. And all you have to do is just cut out the hole for the shifters, and it fits in every F-body style from 1970 to 1981. It's a good carpet. I've used this in both of my cars. I also bought a plastic headliner and also had it covered with the Sahara grain vinyl, and it ended up staying or looking really nice. I also have this in my other Camaro as well, and it is a part that's going to last forever since no water can really destroy it other than the vinyl itself. As you can see here, I started getting the interior back in it, and it was starting to become a lot more of a car on the inside, and I was excited to get this thing driving on the road. Started cutting in all the panels that were off the car and getting it ready to go onto the car, as I did with the hood right here. Fenders need a little love too, but they weren't too bad either. All the metal that had surface rust on it, I treated with a metal prep after I ground everything down with an 80 grit sandpaper on a DA, and to make sure that there's no heavy pinholes where the rust was. So I think I treated everything. Still hasn't come back yet after these past 5 years, so I'd say I did something pretty good. The doors were the hardest part to straighten, in which at first I didn't notice that the doors had a weird swoop to the going towards the back side of the door, which is just how the body lines are on the F-body doors. But they need a little bit of love to make them straight, so they're pretty straight now. Now the car's finally starting to look like a car. Panels are going back on and everything's looking pretty good. For the dashboard on this, I ended up taking the cheaper route and I got a cover for it instead of replacing the whole dash. In the end, in the long run, you can't really tell at a quick glance unless you really feel around for the seams, but you can't even tell that the dash has a cover on it. So in my opinion, it was a good move to do this to also keep you on a budget. and all the other interior pieces all came together really nicely. I had to put a new lower dash in, I put a new retro sound radio in it, and I dyed all the plastic trim pieces that needed to be dyed black dyed, and I painted chrome trim around the trim that was supposed to be there as well, so everything sticks out like it should, and it looks really nice. Here we're starting to fix the front bumper, and this is a urethane bumper, so it is capable of working with newer epoxy style fixers, fillers, and different types like that, and that's what I did on this. This was getting ready for its first drive, so ended up doing it, took it around the block, and we had no problem, surprisingly, so that's a plus in my book. And here we're getting the wheel liners all fixed up and ready to go back in the car as well. Here we officially got the car back together for the most part, and has headlights, so it's mostly drivable for the most part. Everything here was all primed up and ready to get blocked down and get ready to get painted. We upgraded to a 2.5-inch exhaust, which soon will be a 3-inch exhaust on this car this upcoming year. But it was quite a different increase from a stock turbo muffler basically this thing had on it to a chambered muffler, so it was an impressive upgrade. I love the sound of this car. Here the car's finally in the booth getting ready to get masked up and ready to get painted. Car got some sealer down onto it first, and it's a black sealer, so everything kind of ended up being darker on the car, which is what I wanted. Here was the color going on to the car, and it is the original color of a charcoal, and it is one heck of a color. I love the color on this car. It looks so good out in the sun. Here I'm wet sanding the car, which I did a little too early. It has a little bit of dieback, but it's not too bad. It just needs gone over with 5,000 grit sandpaper again. But this took a lot of work to get everything sanded down and buffed. Here I started fixing the hood scoop as well, and luckily it had all the functioning parts I needed for this thing to be a functional flapping hood scoop. So at 100% throttle, this thing will open up and still function properly. Here I was getting all the accessory parts for the car all painted and ready to get put onto the car, and as you can see here, it makes the car look a lot bulkier now. I just got my 17-inch rims, and these are year ones 17x9s, and I also got 17x8s for the front, and in my opinion this was a really good choice. Here I had a friend custom paint on the Chevy 350 decal on my air cleaner, and it's a one-off piece, so it turned out really nice. I enjoy how this thing looks on the car. Here I was installing the stripes around the car, and they turned the car into a nice piece of work. It definitely sets off the color of the gray, so it has more offset, so it's a good choice for this. Here I was finally getting to enjoy the car the way it was. It was for the most part on the exterior finished, and interior. All it needed was some minor upgrades to the engine, which we'll see in just a second. Here we pulled the engine, and it was in dire need of a rebuild because it was burning oil actually pretty quickly. It burned, I think, about a quart every 2 weeks, so it was in need of a rebuild. We had the block board out 30 thousandths over, so now it was a 355. And I also bought a hyper pneumatic flat top pistons, and that brought the compression ratio, I believe, up to 9.5 or 10 to 1. But still has the stock heads on it at the moment until this upcoming year, which are going to be getting aluminum heads as well. And we ended up putting a 434 cam or 443 cam accidentally in this. It was supposed to be a 454 lift cam, but I ended up getting that exchanged out, which I also got to put in as well, for a 510 lift cam that's going to be going in this also. The louvers I had to put back on the car because they looked amazing. My other car has them as well, and nothing looks as good as a set of louvers on the left body Camaro, and they're hard to find as well. Here the engine's going back together, had the heads all painted, the block all painted, new water pump, and everything was just kind of turning out the way it should. Cleaned up the engine bay too while I had the engine out, because might as well. The intake I kept on it for a little bit, but then I ended up changing it out for a aluminum intake, which I still have this on the shelf in case I ever want to go back to stock. I kept the chrome valve covers because they get you home, but I ended up also going through the transmission as well. Just gave it a shift kit so it shifts harder, and it does definitely chirp the tires whenever you bang gears. Soon after I changed out the mufflers on this car because one of them came a little loose on the internal flaps, I ended up putting on a set of headers as well from Jegs, and they were ceramic coated, polished, and they ended up fitting pretty well. Here in a second you'll be hearing the first startup of the car starting up, and we got it right on the first shot. days, see if it leaks anything. But also gotta charge AC on this. But engine temps are staying right at 180. So everything's looking pretty good. Nothing looks out of whack, so I'm pretty happy with how this is sitting. So we're gonna go ahead and let it sit for a few days and see if everything leaks. Cold start Camaro. Let's see what we got. Nice.